is Real Kyper and Bourne on Sportsnet 590 The Fan.
Like sands through the hourglass, so are the days of our lives.
Like sands through the hourglass, so are the last 5 games of the Toronto Maple Leafs regular season.
Weren't you on that show? No, I think Gretzky wasn't he?
You're hilarious. You know, I don't have a very good poker face, so I come in here and I'm like, he's like, what are you cooking up? And I'm like,
got plans.
I don't know. I'm going to try something at the top of the show. It could bomb completely, but I want to make a point.
Yeah.
I am just not a big fan of these last 5 games, even though we got Tampa and Florida, man. This thing's stretching out way too long for me. Last night, Toronto, Philadelphia, I'm sorry, but the best part of last night's game was me in the alumni room with lamb chops.
Did you have lamb chops?
Yes,
Nice.
lamb chops.
A little mint jelly on there or what? It's nice.
Compliments to the chef in the Toronto Maple Leaf alumni box.
I thought the highlight of the game was that one play where the buzzer went that ended the game. Loved that play. That was a really thrilling moment.
All right, Nick Kypreos, Justin Bourne, Derek Brandeo, Jennifer Rolnick, of course, cast of regulars, Sammy on location.
Sup, boys? I just Googled Days of Our Lives. Did you know there's 57 seasons?
57.
A hell of a run.
It started in 1965.
No, Wayne Gretzky was on Young and the Restless. And he was a mobster.
Sorry, Gretzky.
Yeah, I'm telling you, he came across like he was in the mob.
Yeah.
I know, I watched.
Were you in something once?
And it was Nikki who was introduced to him. And Nikki, of course, is
yeah,
like, you know.
you guys know Nikki.
Yeah, Nikki,
No,
come on.
Yeah, of course.
And it was, this is Wayne from our Edmonton plant. That was it. That was the line.
That's all you needed to know.
That's
about
all
Wayne,
you needed to know. And then he came in like he was like, you know, making big decisions whether you get to live or die.
Cool.
Yeah.
So, the latest episode of Days of Our Lives. This is coming out on April 22nd, 2022. So it's coming up here shortly. A possessed Allie plays mind games with Johnny. Ben and Sierra come up with a name for their berry, and Tripp and Chanel bond over their heartache. Paulina kisses Abe. Oh yeah, boys.
Paulina, maybe Wayne's daughter's on. She's an actress of some variety, isn't she? I honestly don't know.
I don't know.
If you were to do a narrative on the Leafs, I mean, would you have like, is it going to be Lyubushkin or Hull in game 1? Like,
no, I would just have slow-mos of Willie Nylander flipping back his slick back hair right out of the shower or something.
will Willie go to the video room and take a look one more time of what made him great?
Ooh, skating helps.
But I when I played for the Rangers, I did get invited. I didn't have a speaking part, but I was on a long-running soap opera called The Guiding Light.
That's right.
And I think must have been my appearance because it got canceled, I think, a few years ago.
Immediately. Like, that's enough.
But
Jump the shark.
yes. But going back to the reason why I kind of brought that whole thing up was the fact that last night was one of those just do enough. Just get enough in. And, Sammy, I think I got to give you credit. I asked you for a score yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
And it was 5-2. You nailed it.
Oh yeah, once in a while. I've only predicted the score literally every day for 6 months, and I've been right once. So pretty good stuff by me.
Not bad, not bad. You know what the highlight of the game was for real? I don't know. Do you still have more intros to do, or can I just launch into?
You go, baby.
All right. Most impressive thing last night for the Toronto Maple Leafs was Sheldon Keefe. The guy who played the most for the Leafs at forward was Mitch Marner, who played 17-17 last night. And that's with 4.5 minutes of power play time. John Tavares was 17 minutes and 6 seconds, 4.5 minutes of power play time. No one played. They spread the ice time around. The game was in the bag early, and Keefe played his guys accordingly. I thought that's a great way to get through a hockey game. Not tax anyone too much, you know?
Well, it kind of lends to whether or not you're thinking in these last 5 games if you're going to rest anyone else. And I would think the next natural decision probably would fall into Mitch Marner, but you don't have to necessarily sit him out, but you can certainly control his minutes. And in those last 2 or 3 games, I mean, you could pull him back to 14, to 15. You know, when game 1 or 2 games, game 1 or game 2 starts. 24. And if there's an overtime, it's going to 28. It's going to 30. It's going to go to 32. So just if you're not going to decide to have him miss a game, then do what you just alluded to. Pull back those minutes.
There's nothing more exciting to me than the fact that we're going to get real overtime again. Overtime playoff hockey, 5-on-5. Oh, God, it's coming.
No,
but in the short term, we'll continue to talk about.
We also got Joe Smith that's going to help us. He's a Tampa Bay Lightning beat writer. We're going to find out what the heck's going on down there. Another loss to Tampa Bay. Mike Kelly, hockey analyst who specializes in the analytics world with the NHL Network, Sport Logic. He's going to come by to share his thoughts as well. So just an ongoing progression for Willie Nylander last night. Safe to say everybody feeling like he's back.
Yeah, well, he certainly looks like it. His performance seems to go up when Matthews is out. Sammy has some stats in here. Sammy, why don't you share them so everyone's not sick of my voice?
That William Nylander's last 10 games without Austin Matthews, he has 6 goals, 15 points. He's +8, and he's got a multi-point games 5 different times, and the team record is 9-1-0.
Man, Willie. So Willie's torn it up without Matthews. You know, he gets to be the flank shooter on the power play, puts one away last night. It just, I'm not saying it's tied together at all, but there was that lull in the season for Willie. And it seems so obvious as an outsider watching it that he just doesn't have that pep. He doesn't seem to be have the go, and he starts skating again. It looks really good. Why don't we go through, got a bunch of clips today. Let's start with Sheldon Keefe on William Nylander.
Yeah, it's been like that for a few games now. He's moving his feet. He's been a real difference maker. Obviously, the power play, once again, he's the trigger man and makes good on it. But more importantly to that, he's skating on both sides of the puck, and it's been really good. Obviously, with Austin's absence, you need guys to step up, and he certainly has done that here the last 2 games. But even going back further than that, he's done a good job here of late.
The unfortunate part for many teams who have a guy that's supposed to be like a Willie Nylander, and that is that he is not your centerpiece. He's not your go-to guy. I'm not even sure. Like, he's part of the core, but he's an accessory to your centerpiece.
He's a luxury item.
Every team's had one. Everyone that's won cups has had that third or fourth guy that you cannot do without, but doesn't necessarily get to top billing.
Yeah.
These guys have a tendency to come and go, but because they're so talented, because they can do so many things that others can't, you truly are at the mercy of just waiting for them.
Yeah. What are you supposed to do? What are you supposed to do
Nothing.
with Willie? Yeah.
But wait.
Just go like this and hope in the first round he can give you a whole new line. They're looking at this Kerfoot, Engvall, Willie line. If Willie is skating and driving that line, all of a sudden you have forward depth. But if he's bad, Willie, you kind of don't, because you don't trust Kerfoot and Engvall to get the job done by himself. So there's a lot riding on the shoulders of Nylander to play well.
When he's gone, right?
Well, and isn't that the truth? Why don't we hear from the man himself on how he's got himself going again? Willie.
I actually went and watched, I took 2 games from the first, whatever. So just randomly watched them, and then I saw two in the later half, and just saw the difference in my game plan. Just saw that it was all about skating more and stuff like that. So I put more focus onto that part of my game.
Skating.
Would have been nice if he checked out a couple of videos maybe a month and a half ago, 2 months ago.
Like February or
and
something.
his numbers are fantastic, and people will say that he's having a career
32.
year,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
But
Career high in goals now.
it's sometimes a little tricky sometimes, because if you can just look at the stat sheets and it's like, hey, this guy's averaging a point a game, but they aren't a point a game. Sometimes they're 4 points in one
40
game,
games, yeah.
and then there'll be a stretch of 3 games where he's absolutely invisible.
Yep.
And that's the part that you have to kind of grin and bear, is those pockets of he's unnoticeable.
Yeah.
And he's had a few of those. There was a stretch here where it was the Matthews and Marner. Is this a team that's kind of resembling a one-line team right now? Because there was a long stretch where Tavares and Nylander weren't getting it done, weren't that noticeable, and certainly didn't put up the numbers that you would have thought on a consistent basis.
Yeah. No, it's interesting. It's a really good point. Go ahead, Sammy.
Well, I was just going to say that you gave credit to Keefe for his in-game stuff last night, not overplaying anybody. I'll give Keefe credit for the line switch up with putting him on the third line with the more defensive guys, putting Mikheyev up with Tavares. It's really seemed to work for both guys to get their seasons headed in the right direction, because before he did that, they were scuffling big time. And I think that was when they switched it, it was at the end of a long stretch of pretty dreary hockey for those two fellas, no?
I would agree with that. Yeah. It is weird. It's funny with Nylander because it's tough to frame it in a way that doesn't sound negative when you're saying, I want more from him, but I want more because he's so good. Like, he's so talented, and being at a point per game for him seems like the floor for me in his career prime to be a point per game guy. There's still so much there. And so when he plays like he does and is playing right now, it's night and day. It's so different. It's funny, if you go through the Leafs plus minus on the year, Marner and Matthews are plus 20. Obviously, Bunting's up there too. Kerfoot and Engvall plus 20, plus 16 for Mikheyev. Willie's minus 11. So that speaks to, even though he's a point per game guy, there's been some long stretches of play for him where it hasn't been great. So glad to see he found a way to take a look, find his game. Hopefully it carries on into the postseason.
Historically, there's always been guys like this in any era where you are so naturally gifted that it's just a foregone conclusion that every time you step on the ice, that this talent will just be there and take you to a level that few can compete with.
Yeah.
And I think he falls into that category. I really do. There's some nights when he just thinks that he's so talented that it'll just naturally fit in and happen. And it doesn't.
Yeah.
And the question is internally, is that a tug of war with him? Or is it one of those where I'm just not feeling it? I hope I'll be better tomorrow night.
I think he probably judges himself versus other players in the league, average players, instead of judges himself against the best players in the league. Like, I think he looks around and goes, I'm doing better than, I'm blowing Kapanen's numbers out of the water. Look at him, look at this guy. I'm better than this guy over here. And then instead of looking at, Mitch Marner and saying, how do I try to keep up with the best, I don't know.
If he's not Pasternak from a talent point of view, how close is he?
I think from an offensive talent point of view, he is Pasternak.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
I don't see a ton of difference when it comes to the skating, the shooting, the ability to protect a puck at times. I think Pasternak's just got a little bit or a lot more gumption and FU in his game.
Yeah, I think that's safe to say. I totally agree with you.
But
Hey,
I
Willie
wish
was on the front line of a scrum, boys. He's got some FU.
Did that happen? Was I looking at my phone?
Yeah.
Must have missed that part.
Can we get a few more sample sizes, please?
I'm gonna get a
But he should
watch
be
back on that.
He should be. I think when he's not watching his own film, I think he should be watching Pasternak's videos.
Interesting, yeah. And you know what's so funny is like it's so not hard to watch video, let alone other players' video your own now in the NHL. You don't sit there through a 60-minute hockey game fast forwarding through commercials like the old days. Like someone brings you all your shifts. Here's your 5-on-5 shifts trimmed to when you're around the puck. You can watch your whole game in 14 minutes and be out the door, you know? So I don't think watching a few hockey games is much of an ask. Good for him. Glad he's doing the work. Let's be careful on giving him too much credit.
Do you expect that line to stick for game one?
Yeah, well, if game one's at home and they get last change, I think you may see him back with Tavares in some capacity. Like, I think they don't mind the idea of having another line that they can get out there, match up against some weaker line. I think you'll see the line from last night, Kerfoot, Engvall, and him, when they're looking to get away from matchups and create a stronger third line. I just know that they're looking for options, right? Like, you know, we're 5 games away now, trying to get a sense for what's out there for this team, who works with who. I like that line. Look good to me. I want to go to Jack next? Or
Yeah, just the only thing, and it's a talented line. It's a fast line.
Yeah.
We know maybe one of the fastest.
Yeah, Kerfoot and Engvall
Right?
fly. Obviously,
Fly.
Willie's no slowpoke.
Is it gritty enough? Is it heavy enough?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's the thing why matchups matter, because if you put them out there against a gritty defensive line, I don't love it. But if you can get a weaker matchup for it, you certainly think they can make some third pairs, some second pair D, third pair D, get on their heels a little bit, get turning, and you hope to do what Willie did in playoffs last year.
Before we get into going through maybe the defense and the goaltending off of last night, just in terms of another guy that is having, I think, a really good season, and that's Kerfoot.
Mm-hmm.
And
50 points now.
Right? Is he the centerman that you want in the playoffs? He's Swiss Army knife. He can find himself on the wing easily.
Mm-hmm.
But where do you see Kerfoot in this equation here? And I only say that because he's got 50-plus points. I think he's got, if I'm not mistaken, 38 assists. A really nice pass to Liljegren last night.
Yeah,
I mean,
great play.
He finds a way to contribute on the offense. He's not the first guy you think about against with the Toronto Maple Leafs, but he has quietly put up some nice numbers here.
Yeah, he plays 15 minutes a night on the third line, well, wherever they want him, really. I just think when you build the Maple Leafs, there's some, you're building your lineup puzzle, and there's some guys who ain't moving. Austin Matthews, 1C. Morgan Riley, 1D. You got your goalie. And then you start filling in around there, and that's where you make your decisions. You love a guy that can go in 10 different spots. He's like a free square or wild card. You can kind of put him wherever you like. So 15 minutes a night, versatility, kills penalties, plus 20, 50 points. I know he's not anyone's favorite player on the Leafs.
Can he run anybody over
Not
at times?
one. No.
Just please.
No one.
He does. Last year in the playoffs, boys, he showed a little bit of an edge. I think more than he does in the regular season. I remember at the end of one of the last games, he gave Suzuki a little bit of a late shot. He's running around a bit. I think he is a guy that elevates the greasy side of his game a little bit once the playoffs come.
Right?
And Kyper, I'm glad you gave him credit, because I think he's a guy that is kind of not necessarily a whipping boy, because I don't think he, is high profile enough to be a whipping boy for Leafs Nation, but he's a kind of a guy that he's the first name in anyone's mouth when they're looking to get rid of salary or there's going to be a trade. You always hear people say, Kerfoot's the guy that'll go, or maybe they can trade Kerfoot for him.
Yeah,
but you're gonna,
I know that's
you're gonna have to
go ahead, sorry.
You're gonna need that 3-5 if you even want to consider bringing back Mikheyev next year, right? I mean, he'll always be that guy that it's only a matter of time before you get rid of him.
Yeah,
but he's having a really good year.
Yeah,
maybe
he really is.
Maybe he can be Zemgus Girgensons and stick with the team for 8 years, despite knowing that he actually is on the team. You just,
I meant to ask you this on a couple occasions, but I'll throw it out right now. Okay, if Mitch Marner is the Leafs' best passer,
yep,
Who's the second best passer on the Toronto Maple Leafs?
Love that question. I'm going to try not to look at any stats right now.
Yeah.
The natural inclination comes to mind is Willie, but I don't
Really?
Yeah, but no, I know, but he doesn't make a lot of he can make nice flat sauces and it looks pretty, but I don't know. Who do you have? Bunting? Bunting's got vision.
Kerfoot, probably.
Awareness.
You know what? Sammy just said it, and I only say that because on a couple occasions
People
he's
are mad
made
we're not
some
saying Austin, by the way.
really nice passes. I liked Kerfoot's pass last night to Liljegren, and I liked his 2-on-1 to Engvall the night before.
Mm-hmm. I guess we're supposed to say Matthews.
Well, I think if we look at the stats, it's going to say Marner, and then it goes to the assist leaders would
Riley,
be all your
Tavares,
big
Matthews,
boys,
yeah.
all your big boys.
Yeah.
But you got to also think that
PB touches. That sounds bad. Power play touches.
power play assists, the majority of power play assists.
Yeah.
For those guys, the bulk would come off of, so you'd chop off 10, 15. But I look at Kerfoot. So, okay, even strength assists. Mm-hmm. It would
Spezza.
go. No, even strength assists would go Marner. Then Bunting and Kerfoot would slide in there.
Probably.
And then it would go Tavares and Matthews.
I can figure this out awfully easily here. But yes, that makes sense to me.
So it's skewed, right?
It is skewed. Well, that's,
And you love.
As I say, Sammy, a lot of people talking about, we've, at times when we've been hard on Tavares, people have said, he's at a point per game. He's at his career averages. He's at whatever. And, the reality is scoring around the league is up. There's like 700-point guys. Everyone is getting points. He's on one of the best offensive teams in the NHL. He's on power play 1 with 4 forwards. That's the best power play in the NHL or second best or whatever it is. Like every opportunity to get points is there. So, yes, there is some sort of recalculation on points where you have to go right, but they're put in a position to get a lot of points. So,
But Bunting's got 40 assists. And
if he doesn't have 40 assists on that line, that's
I know, I get it. And I don't think he's going to win Rookie of the Year. And there's just not enough. There's just not enough there for him to win it.
First assists on the Maple Leafs at 5-on-5. Bunting first. 22. Marner has 21. 5-on-5, first assist. So total assists.
Okay, total assists.
Total assists.
Yes.
Marner has 38 and
Yes.
Bunting has 37.
And where is Kerfoot?
Third. 32. Right there with them. Wow. Great job. Matthews, 27. Riley, 27. Tavares, 24.
To me,
Nylander,
5-on-5, those type of assists, 5-on-5, tell you that they're amongst the best passers on the team.
Yeah. That was a fun little thought experiment. should we go back into last night?
Well, it is last night.
It is.
Kerfoot's helper, I thought, was really, really nice.
It is. It's a really a weird observation that I never would have thought about, having Kerfoot that highly ranked. But yeah, good creator and, being all over the lineup like that. Again, probably an underappreciated Maple Leaf at this point.
Sammy, anything on that before we critique Jack Campbell?
No, I like the way that he takes the puck from zone to zone too. He's good at that. He's good as a transition player. Head up, gets the puck out of the zone. I don't love his hands. Bit of a stone hands from time to time. Don't love his one-on-one stuff he does with the goalie because he gets breakaways too. But other than that, I really love his passing, and that was a great call by Kyper. So I'm all good on Kerfoot.
All right,
Jack Campbell, last 5 starts, 5-0, 240 goals against average, 907 save percentage, at least trending in the right direction.
Yes. Do you want to start with Keefe before you and I give our opinions?
Sure. Let's go to Sheldon Keefe on Jack Campbell.
He was locked in. I mean, it's terrible that we had breakdown there, turnover, forced the issue to give up the second goal, but he was excellent. It was great to see him. We gave up more shots than we would have liked today as a team. I think if you talk to Jack and you talk to the goalie coach, Steve Briere, you want those shots, you want that work, and especially on a night when Jack's feeling it the way that he was. So that's the biggest takeaway I'll take out of the game today is.
he can't pump his tires more. They'll burst. They'll burst.
Peak. Roberto Luongo and Tim Thomas.
But can you blame the guy? It's Jack or nothing.
Yeah. And last night, so you weren't as high, maybe quite as high on him as Sheldon was. I thought last night he looked energetic. He looked.
Well, Liljegren gives up the puck on the JVR first goal. A big rebound in the middle of the net. And then you tip your hat off to a great shot for the Flyers' second goal. No different than Liljegren's, very good shot over Jones' left shoulder. But listen, just make the saves that you're supposed to make.
Yeah.
He does not have to be first star every playoff game, but the average is every other game that you have to be the best player on your team, if not top two, to get to a Stanley Cup final.
I feel like he fell so far confidence-wise that it wasn't going to be a thing where he could go out and make, who was it? It was probably Mike McKenna on our show who said, forget which goalie it was on our show who said it takes one bad goal to strip you of your confidence, but it takes 100 good saves to get it back.
Curtis Joseph.
Oh, yeah. That guy, I've heard of him.
Yeah, I think he's played, right?
Yeah. And that's what I felt from Jack was that to get to 100 saves, you have to make the first one and the 13th one, and the 22nd. Like, this is the start of building towards that 100 for me, where I felt better about him last night. He got across post to post on one-timer that's maybe going wide, maybe not. But he gets across and he's in the right spot to make the save even if the shot is on the net. I just liked his movement more last night. You know what I saw last night from him, too? Is when he makes a save and he's feeling so good about himself, he needs to give someone else credit and tapping his D and going.
He's been really consistent with that.
Well, has he been even when he's been crummy?
Yeah, I think so.
I feel like I hadn't noticed it as much lately. So last night, giving a great job to someone who had nothing to do with the play. It's like, that's the Jack that was playing well for this team. So,
and are you okay with him not starting against Tampa Bay tomorrow night? We don't know. As far as I haven't heard anything on it. I don't know if anything was said today or last night.
I heard it theorized that he would play tomorrow night and then play on Friday or Saturday as well, and then Sunday off. Do you think that's too much if he does that? Kind of go every second day here against good teams, and
I don't know if it's necessary.
Mm-hmm.
I probably wouldn't play him against Tampa Bay and give him Florida.
I think it's years ago since you weren't allowed to acknowledge that the other network exists, but it was Ferraro on the broadcast last night who said it. He thought he was going whatever, and I thought it seems like a lot for Campbell right away. But I guess
he's been off for how long? Right, 4 weeks.
And actually, this is what happened last time. Remember, he was off for a long time, then he came back, and they gave him 4 games in 6 days, and all of a sudden he was hurt again. You don't want that to happen. So which game would you rather see him? I guess he's got to play one of the back-to-back. So, to have him take off in Tampa Bay and give Shalgren that one. I think that's my choice.
I was like
after
this
talking
the other
through it with you.
And I felt this way 24 hours ago, but then all of a sudden the odds went up that, Sammy, you ready for this? The Boston Bruins will be the Toronto Maple Leaf opponents in the first round and not Tampa Bay, based on last night's loss to Detroit for Tampa Bay and Boston's win over St. Louis.
So we're sitting here doing the show yesterday, and there's a 22% chance Boston is the Leafs' opponent.
And today?
42% chance you're getting the Bruins. In fact, if you're the Bruins, if you go to the Bruins and see who their most likely opponents are, it's actually the Leafs, because they have a bigger variety of opponents it could be. Their most likely opponent is the Leafs. So Tampa's still barely more likely than Boston, but and now you can't help but feel like, as a Leafs fan, I would say, well, don't let us miss the chance to get Tampa. Tampa's flailing. Boston just beat the Blues. They're rolling. I know you never want to wish to get the Lightning, but I don't know. Sammy, who do you wish?
Sammy, they still scare the heebie-jeebies out of you, don't they, the Boston Bruins?
Doesn't matter. It honestly doesn't matter, boys. Like, the way the Leafs are playing, the way the season's gone, it just doesn't matter. You just gotta accept who you get and beat them. Like, I know the history with the Bruins. I would probably rather play the Lightning just because of all the things I've laid out to you. Mostly the sweaters that the Bruins wear, the building they play in, having to watch the games, the ghosts, the demons. But listen, The Leafs have been the better team all year. If they can't go into that, they have home ice advantage. If they can't beat the Bruins this year with Swayman and net and a back end that's not as good in years past, then what are we even doing here? I just I really don't think it matters. I really, really don't.
Well,
Fair
it could just be Sheldon Keefe's feelings as well, and that he would base it on the depth of the team. Let's listen to Sheldon.
It is. I think on forward, it's somewhat similar to where we've been. I mean, I think back to a couple years ago. I mean, when we played in the bubble here, I think we had Pierre Engvall, playing on the fourth line at that time, and with Clifford and Spez. So that in that sense, we're kind of in the same sort of place. Engvall's moved up, Blackwell's kind of come in, and but on defense, obviously we got the health of Muzzin and Sandin as something that has to fall into place for us here, and Kasha as well. But when you look at those guys as options, as we hope that they become available for us, then we certainly think we're in a really good place there for sure.
Boys, I see the depth.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, you should have the most depth out of any team on the forwards, because you've spent almost 50% of your cap in 4 guys.
Mm-hmm. Well, that should make it harder to have depth. I mean, the money that they've spent on their forward group, you would think would give them the depth, but the fact that it's in 4 guys makes it hard. That it's pretty good, I think, is a credit to them.
It is that you were able to take a stone and make it bleed.
Yeah.
With Bunting and Engvall and Kampf and Kasha when he's healthy. Like it's that's true depth. They've got depth there. Where I get nervous for the Toronto Maple Leafs is the lack of depth on the blue line. Mm-hmm. Muzzin out. Don't know if he's going to come back, and if he does, how good is he going to be? How healthy will he look? They're one injury away from a catastrophe on that blue line.
Yeah, so I wrote an article that's up on sportsnet.ca today about, my assumption, I'm assuming Muzzin's going to come back and play. Like, he's skating now. They're taking him on the road trip. I presume he's going to play. I don't think they're bringing him around. Otherwise, they'd bring Sandin. I think there's some hockey intentions there. So if he's back in, which could be a scary thought, you have one extra guy, essentially, and it's going to be a right shot guy. Because you're going to have Riley in for sure, Muzzin in, Giordano in, Brody in. There's your 4 left shots. You're left with Lyubushkin, Hall, and Liljegren. And only 2 of them can play. So to me, Hall's in. He plays 4 more minutes per night than those guys. He's the team's leading penalty kill guy. He's essential to that part of their game. So it's Liljegren or Lyubushkin in the playoffs. Who do you got?
I know statistically it doesn't look great for Lyubushkin. The giveaway up the wall that led to the JVR goal. But then I'm watching the end of the game, and he's taking a healthy run at Zack, and I'm loving every second of it. And I'm like, that's exactly what they've been missing. Just a guy that can make another guy on a team you're facing just a little nervous.
Yeah.
Just a split second to forget about his team philosophy or the game plan and just... Okay, what's this guy going to do?
Yeah.
Is he going to hurt me?
Yeah.
It's all it takes sometimes is just someone to make someone on the other team go, hey, keep your head up, man.
Yeah.
I can hurt you.
Well, I did. So in that article, I looked at all these sort of numbersy things. And at the end of the day, Lyubushkin he starts more shifts in his own end. He plays tougher competition. His expected goals against and all those sort of defensive metrics aren't very good, but he also has been playing with Morgan Riley, who, no one likes to say this out loud, but he's the team's maybe their weakest actual defender. He's an amazing player, but he's not a defensive defenseman by any stretch. So, the way I kind of shook it all down is him and Liljegren are pretty comparable defensively. Liljegren creates a lot more offensively, but what Lyubushkin brings is much more playoff stylistically, right?
I don't know. It's not easy because I'm watching Liljegren and he's gaining some confidence. That was a great goal he scored.
Poised.
It was.
It was a snipe.
Buddy, the Tiger Woods club twirl after the shot?
Is there more to squeeze out of Liljegren in that capacity?
It's getting better.
And it seems like, his timing's going pretty well when it comes to, when to come down in and look for a pass like a Kerfoot gave him last night. And that's part of the equation in the playoffs, that you need certain players to rise up that's unexpected. Mm-hmm. Can he continue to provide a little offense in the playoffs?
My only worry is that it seems he's higher risk reward to me in that the guys who tend to make the big boo-boos in the playoffs are your Dermots and your Galchenyuks and the guys who are kind of green and, they make those ones that you go, God, Liljegren, like not now. Now's not the time. We needed that. Lyubushkin, again, he's not, he's a flawed defender. He's a 6D. He's your 6th guy. He's going to make mistakes. But what's the value in having someone who punishes? My conclusion at the end of my article is that I think I would start with Liljegren. But my heart wants Lyubushkin in there because I still believe in playoffs.
I have Hall out.
You do?
Me too,
yes,
Kip.
I have Hall out.
Guys,
I don't care about your extra 3 minutes. I've got Hall out over
He is
Liljegren.
The first guy over the second best penalty kill. First guy over the boards on the second best penalty kill in the league. I mean, he plays 20 minutes a night. He wasn't good in the first part of the season, but to me, he's reliable. He's a guy you trust as a right shot guy. I just think he's so low event. He's like the one, I don't know. I'm a big Hall guy, and to me, they've used him in a way. Liljegren's had 4 good weeks here. I mean, I understand that a lot of statistically the season's been good, but 4 good weeks where he hasn't been prone to that giant gaffe. I just worry about it coming up at the wrong time.
Sammy, it may come
Bush is
down.
flawed.
It may come down to these last 5 games and who's got momentum going into game 1, Hall or Liljegren. Mm-hmm. That's the way I would use these last 5 games.
Yeah, great.
I think that the point that Bourne made about Hall and the penalty kill is a really important one, and that's so important in the playoffs. But Liljegren's been really, really good, and it's hard because we've been hard on him. I've been hard on him. Bourne's been hard on him. I think we kind of have to realize that he's sort of a lock for the lineup now.
No, he's not a lock. He's not a lock.
I understand the also the good point you made about the Dermot sort of thing where, the big mistake. Yeah. But he's just been too good recently to have him be out of the lineup in the first game of the playoffs. I think he's earned being in there.
I have him in right now. I do.
I can't hang my hat on maybe 2 power plays a game in the playoffs.
For Liljegren. What do you mean?
For Hall.
2 penalty kills a game.
Penalty
yeah.
Kill. So
he averages 230 per game on the PK.
I think Lyubushkin, or I'm sorry, I think Liljegren and Lyubushkin have better opportunities to put fires out in their own zone.
They just feel
Hall.
like the new sexy toy to me over the guy
makes
who
me
just
nervous 5-on-5 in front of the net or in a corner.
He doesn't clear the front of the net overly well. Neither does Liljegren.
Yeah. Guess what the playoffs are all about?
Clearing the front of the net. So put Bush in then if you want. Like
right.
I just feel like Hall he's taken for granted because there's not a sexy thing he does. There's no moment in the game you're like, that's Hall's specialty, but it is stick disruptions and annoying little defensive things.
All right, we got a couple of minutes here before the break. I got a few clips left, but do we want Austin Matthews? And is there a concern? I went on the morning show with JD, and they're a little nervous about Austin Matthews. Let's go to the clip. The Kyper's clipper on Keefe on Matthews, and then we'll talk about it after.
No, he's feeling good, and he's got a really good skate today. And because like I said from the beginning, we thought this was a pretty minor situation, and he was going to push through pretty quickly. We'll just have to make sure that we're putting him in a good spot and that we've used the appropriate time. It's a new injury for him, and it's something that he hasn't dealt with before, so we want to make sure that he's feeling good and comfortable before he gets back out there.
That doesn't make you nervous, does it?
What? The thing that really stands out is he says, at first we thought it was just a minor thing, or at the beginning we thought it was a minor thing, and then he carries on. What do you think it is now? Wait.
No, I got the sense he still thinks it's minor.
Okay.
I did. I didn't get a sense of
Okay. And now it's
where, it's not what we thought it was going
It's
to
the
be.
first time dealing with this injury. He got some.
I think that's his
nail
way of
fungus.
saying it's nothing major. It's not the wrist. It's not.
He is saying it's nothing that's happened before.
Right.
It's not like a recurring.
That's right. So.
I don't know. I feel a little nervous.
I'm
Yeah.
We think we're confident he's going to play in Florida.
Yeah.
Yes. Not Tampa, but in Florida.
Why not Tampa?
I don't know, because it just feels like everything. It just feels like they're setting this whole thing up for, well, he's okay, but, and just keep punting it down the road. I don't know. Nervous Kipper.
What, he just brought him on the trip to go to Hooters? What? Like
No, I know.
John Daly's kid?
I just used the reason for Muzzin. Hey, did we not talk about that on the show? John Daly's kid is sponsored by Hooters.
That's why I brought it up.
It's the most important thing we've ever not talked about.
What is
I
he,
love it.
12?
He looks like it.
Hey. is
No,
he-
he's going to college. Kid.
Oh, is he? Okay, good.
He looks
Yeah.
exactly
Yeah,
like
yeah.
John Daly. He looks like such a perfect gremlin. I don't know.
And listen,
Yes.
the best part of it was the statement from John Daly too, the son of PGA pro John Daly. I have seen my father's great relationship with Hooters over the years, and I am proud to continue my family's association with this iconic brand.
Hey, the brand is iconic. Can't take it from the kid.
So I did a charity event with John Daly.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. And it was a strange one. And then he invited the Baldwin brothers. Right?
Tell us. Please, we're not going to break. We're just going to talk about this. What?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was an event that I got Sportsnet to put on air and show the whole thing.
Really?
Yeah. And I didn't go great. Didn't go great.
Which Baldwin brothers?
So we send a stretch limo
God, budgets were different, huh?
to pick up John Daly and maybe a Baldwin brother or two, and to bring them up to Angus Glen.
Great. Nice track.
Except they decided to take the long stretch limo and go to Niagara Falls for like a day and a half.
Like by their own choice? They just decide.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So, so everyone's surprised when the invoice came in and it was like a $3,000 limo expense.
Oh, man.
And maybe a stop at Hooters, I think, at some point for sure.
Oh, yeah.
But
I'm sure.
anyways, there's a lot more to that story. I might
Oh, we'll get
share
that
or
off
maybe
air.
not share. I don't know. All right, let's go to break. Sammy, we're way over the break. We got Joe
Yeah, it's all
Smith
good.
coming up after the break, beat writer for the Tampa Bay Times. We're going to dive in and find out through Joe, like, what the heck is going on with the Tampa Bay Lightning, and where is all this new found energy from the trade deadline they were supposed to have to take a run at something historic like winning 3 cups in a row. We are Real Kyper and Bourne, and we'll see you after the break.
Untitled Kyper and Bourne on Sportsnet 590 The Fan.
Still very much up in the air who the Toronto Maple Leafs will see in the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs here in 2022. We thought for sure it was going to be a Tampa Bay scenario. But after last night, maybe not. Let's welcome in Joe Smith, Lightning beat writer for the Tampa Bay Times. He joins us. Joe, everybody thought Tampa Bay against the Leafs, man. What are you thinking these days?
I thought so too for a while, but it very well could be them in a wild card spot. So I'd love to see a Leafs Lightning matchup be such a fun back and forth series. But if the Lightning don't kind of shape up here, they play Toronto tomorrow and those Panthers on Sunday. There's no easy games down the stretch.
So what's going on here with Tampa? It's, you've got an article here, Lost to Red Wings exposes issues with Lightning that need to be fixed. What are the issues?
Well, I mean, I think they've played one or two good periods at a time. They haven't had a consistent full game in a while, and they won 2 cups based upon the idea of process over outcome, right? Like, they have a lot of skill, but they won because they were able to defend in front of their net, not have Vasilevskiy bailing them out all the time. And what you're seeing now is a great first period against Detroit, and then the next period they thought they would just put their sticks down there and cruise. And they try to be kind of offensively go for it too much versus being, going with the process. And I think like Steven Stamkos said last night, not everybody was on board. And that was kind of more of like a eye-popping quote there. But, it's people, the most important thing for them is to get their game ready for the playoffs. I realize regular season games, you don't win the cup in April, but you get your details of your game right. You play your structure, get some confidence in all your top guys. And right now it's not there.
The one thing that when we looked at the East throughout this whole season was Tampa Bay's got something no one else has, and that is a sure thing in net in Vasilevskiy. And it sure doesn't feel that way, and it didn't really feel that way last night watching him start and get some leaky goals in him. Where is he, and how big of a concern is Vasilevskiy?
Well, if you have Lightning, I don't think the least of your concerns is him or anything else. I think he has that body of work where you see him in the playoffs that he can be that guy. Obviously, recently he struggled like the team has struggled because he hasn't had a win in the last 6 starts, which is rare for him. A goal, I think the third one last night was uncharacteristic going through the 5-hole there. But either giving up odd man rushes and breakaways, and it's going to weigh on a goaltender. So if I were to list my number of worries for Lightning, I don't think Vasilevskiy is there. But you're right, his play hasn't been up to his sparkling high standards as of late. But I think he used to be a big equalizer in the playoff series against the Leafs or any other team in the East because of how good he can be. I think he's the best goalie in the world when he's on top of his game.
At the deadline, the big move, and not quite at the deadline, was the Brandon Hagel trade. Giving up multiple firsts. It's a gigantic transaction. How has that panned out for the Leafs? Or sorry, for the Lightning?
Yeah, Hagel and Paul both came in. Paul has been terrific, playing on the top line of the night with Kucherov and point, producing more. Hagel's been a little slower offensively. I think it was more of a shock to him to get traded, a young kid, the first time getting moved in his career and going from playing 17, 18 minutes in Chicago with Cade and Taves, and now he's kind of sliding into more of a third-line role. And I think his game's coming. It's getting better. He's getting more consistent with it, playing with Palat and Stamkos. And, there's a lot there for that this year, for the next couple of years under contract, which is why they acquired him for that price. But I think the best of him you're going to see in the playoff time.
Throughout all of this is Steven Stamkos quietly having a fantastic year. When the Tampa Bay Lightning first started with their salary cap issues, there was almost a thought that they would try to think about moving him, asking him to move his no move. I mean, that's long gone. Tell us about his year so far.
Oh, he's outstanding. I mean, I think he came into the year really healthy for the first time in several years, having been able to work out with Gary Roberts and instead of rehabbing, working out and strengthening his knee, his legs, everything else. And you saw him come in so motivated to make the Canadian Olympics team, which I think he would have had they had NHL players go to the Olympics. And he's just really been kind of a driving force in play when they lost Point and Kucherov for a extended period of time. Just tied Marty St. Louis last night for career points in Lightning uniform, which is tremendous there. And I think it's kind of almost like a career rebirth for him. He's like 31, 32, and you probably wouldn't have thought a few years ago he'd be playing another 5 years. But right now he's not slowing down, and he's really kind of evolved as a player, to not just a shooter, but a scorer and a playmaker. And they certainly need him down the stretch here in the playoffs to be a guy that they can count on.
One thing that catches my eye about the build of the Lightning is they have this great fourth line in Maroon, Belmar, and Perry. Those guys statistically at one point I looked at it throughout this season were, just really tremendous at driving expected goals. I'm not sure if that has kept up over the last little bit here, but tell me about that line for Tampa Bay and the advantage it gives them.
Yeah, they have one line that they've had all year that hasn't really changed very much. Belmar, Maroon, and Perry. And Perry, I think he started the year with no goals in the first 17 games. I think he's doing 1 for 18 stretch. Now he still has 17 goals, which is pretty darn good for a third, fourth line player. And he's been so valuable in the room too, as far as perspective for guys. And was given an A on his letter within 5 games. And I think those guys aren't going to win any foot races on the ice. They're not going to be like blazing speed, but you get below the circles and come playoff time, below the red line and big goals. And I think really get the guys engaged physically in the game, which is so important. The Lightning, they're much better when they're engaged physically and kind of pulled into the fight like you saw in the last couple of years in the playoff run. So that line is pretty integral in doing that.
We're talking to Joe Smith, who writes for the Tampa Bay Times, following the Tampa Bay Lightning. For the hockey fans in the state of Florida, Joe, has the Panthers done enough in the last 3 weeks to a month to say that Tampa and the Leafs and Boston and whoever else wants to talk about in the East is staring at the team to beat?
Well, I mean, I think everybody, the Florida Panthers say it's their time, right? I think the Leafs are saying it's our time, with all the losses in playoffs before and pushing. But I think until the Lightning lose the playoff series, I think they're still one of the teams to beat. They're not playing like it right now, of course. They're not going to be their top seeds off the start on the road, and which they don't mind. But I think until somebody beats kind of the championship team with their experience and overall quality of player up front, depth up front on the blue line, I think they're still a team that teams will want to play coming in the first round.
Where's John Cooper at with the Lightning these days? This guy's won at every level he's ever coached. Great experience, good demeanor. We've had him on the show and enjoyed him before. How is he handling the Lightning state of affairs these days?
Well, he's a pretty good calming influence, and he's one of those guys that now he's the longest tenured coach in the league. He said one of the challenges now is knowing when to push and when to pull back on a veteran championship team, when to practice them, when to pull up, when one has day off. So I think some of his better work has been this year, considering all the expectations of going for a historic three-peat, a lot of demands, pressures, and they played a lot of hockey the last couple of years to make sure to manage a lot of the guys that have played that much. So a real test for him will be down the stretch here and getting the playoffs to see if he can get them over the hump again. But you usually watch practices, and no matter how well or how bad they're doing, they still have a similar demeanor and a little zip to their game like they did today. Just the 10-year anniversary of that Norfolk team that he coached, won 29 straight games, still a pro hockey record. So pretty incredible he's still on this run.
Right.
Joe, just overall with Florida having the year that they're having and the recent playoff matchup, just in your eyes, what you've seen, where the growth of hockey has been in for the NHL with two rivals like this really going at it.
It's been great. I mean, you look at how many players are playing hockey in Tampa now. Like Nathan Smith was a guy from Tampa. Now he's on the cusp of the National Hockey League, played for the U.S. Olympic team. Getting guys drafted here more from the area. The youth championship youth team from Tampa just went to the national tournament. So I think they have a lot of growth in hockey, and a lot of it is to do with the Lightning winning the Stanley Cup in 2004 and then winning the last couple of years. And I tell you what, the series against the Florida Panthers last year might have been the toughest series for the Lightning. Panthers had some goaltending consistency last year, and that could have been a different tone.
So Maple Leafs fans will want to know how Zack Pagozian's season has gone. He feels like the one who got away here, $1 million a year. He's making less than that there, and they would have loved to have him in Toronto. How's his season been?
He's been good. He's been got injured. I think game 1 took a shot off the foot, and so he missed an extended period of time. But he's been in that third pair with Mikhail Sergachev. Obviously, the guys love his personality and a great guy off the ice. I think he hosts the whole team for Thanksgiving at his place. I think what was tough for him in Toronto was not being able to see his family just because of the COVID and all the protocols. And so being back here in Tampa for 3 years with guys he knows well and a chance to win, I think it's been refreshing for him. So I think he enjoyed his time in Toronto and the guys there. But a security of a 3-year contract and be back with the team that he won a cup with a few years back has been great for him.
Hey, Joe, thanks for helping us tee up the Lightning and the Leafs tomorrow night. We really appreciate your time. Thanks for doing this.
No problem. We'll do it again before first round series if it gets to that point.
Joe
right,
Smith,
thanks, Joe.
who writes for the Tampa Bay Athletic.
The Athletic.
Not the Times.
We got it.
As
Sorry,
was
boys.
written in my
Sammy,
lineup.
don't you know he's Ron Burgundy? He'll read anything that's on the teleprompter.
Well, I guess I'm Ron Burgundy too because I legitimately thought that and wrote that. It's a bad look on my part. Horrible producing. Sorry,
good.
boys.
It's
I
all
didn't mean
good.
to sewer you guys like that.
We'll forgive you, and
Thank
just
you.
make sure Joe knows that we're not idiots like Ron Burgundy.
No, I told him.
Okay, good.
All good.
All right. Now, I just
I
want
also got a text. Is Joe calling from the moon? Was a text I got. So our connection was not ideal. That's all right. We got through it.
Just to follow up, and you asked a great question about John Cooper. Now, John Cooper is the longest tenure head coach, right? Since what, 2013?
Yeah.
So, and he's been through a lot. And he's been through a lot with a lot of the same players.
Yeah.
And you're watching Tampa Bay, and where they should be, like the Leafs, trending towards, game 1. He's watching this now.
Starting to go a bit squirrely on him.
Yeah. But, he's got to have now a real strategy here because you cannot fly off the handle on them with 5 games to go. It's too early.
Yeah.
He's got one of those cards to play. If he hits them hard right now, either internally or he challenges them in the media, then it's hard for him to go back to that 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, if he has to save a series.
The thing is, you can't really do the coach motivation thing in playoffs because the coach motivation thing is usually about effort, right? It's about hey, pay attention, sharper focus, bigger effort. Like in postseason, everyone's trying, right? No one's going through the motions in the postseason.
No, but
so
you have one, especially with this group where they're veterans, and for a lot of them, if you got one more crack at getting their attention, I would, if I'm Cooper, I save it for the first round. I remember our documentary All or Nothing, and
almost at the end of the year, and we still reference that. What a show!
Yeah, what a show! But Sheldon Keefe's big speech, right? In Game 6, this is it. This is the moment. He really treated it like a Game 7, and they lost it.
Game 7, it's
and then you had to go back and revisit that. Well, it wasn't really it. We got 2 tries, and
guys, no,
it's just. I think for Cooper right now, he's got to bite his lip right now and just say these guys. They've won before.
They know what it
right?
takes.
They just do not. I think waste a bullet right now.
I do wonder how hard it is. Like once you've had success together, and you've been there, and I've been there, where you win a championship, and mine was not at the NHL level, but your relationship with that coach changes because he can let down the wall. Right? He doesn't have to be the grindy guy. You've done it together. You've connected. Maybe you had Mike Keenan. It wasn't quite the same, but I think you won in junior as well.
That was there's a big difference between 2013 to 2022 for John Cooper than Keenan, where it's that short window in and out.
I guess my point is, like, I imagine his relationship with Steven Stamkos is not entirely one of player and coach, typically how we think of it, but I imagine they have a bit of a two-way reciprocal, they can communicate. Steven can walk in and sit down and they can talk.
I would say in the last 12 to 18 months, it's been far better than probably the first 8 years.
Where they hadn't got over
7 years.
Yeah.
And there were times when Cooper would not be playing Stamkos and the minutes would be 14, 15 minutes some nights. And it's like, I'm a 50, 60 goal scorer, right? I'm the captain.
But I just mean, like, even with Victor Hedman or, whatever. Like, these guys have a more of a relationship with Cooper.
For sure.
So for Cooper to go in there and blow a gasket like out of a cartoon with steam coming out of his ears, like, they're like, hey, like.
Unless it's been set up already between
with those guys.
Hedman.
Now you're making sense.
Right?
To me.
That's the way it works.
Yeah.
You call in the Hedmans, you call in the Stamkoses, and you say, boys, I need some information here. You got to feed me what you think we need. And if it means coming in with the hammer, then I'll go back into the room with you guys in it, knowing that you've got my back on it.
Mm-hmm.
And if I need to attack maybe a third or fourth liner or the second pair on the D, then let's do it.
Yeah.
And I would assume that Vasilevskiy would be part of that as well.
And it'd be like, next time this happens, just so you know I'm coming in. Like, if we have this happen again, whatever, this sort of breakdown. Anyway, I imagine your relationship after you've had success with a team is a different dynamic than what Sheldon Keefe is trying to do, trying to just ram this Leafs team through the first round into somewhere successful.
Are they subconsciously saying we'll be ready for puck drop?
Yeah. Well, there's a part of me that thinks Tampa
home
might.
or away, we'll be ready.
Look at this team. Their D core is still Hedman and Ruda, McDonough and Chernak, Sergachev and Bogosian. Still their D. There's still those guys.
Do you want, whether it's Hall or anyone else on the Leafs, do you want to face Kucherov, Point?
And Nick Paul was the top line. Kucherov, Point, and Kucherov.
Hedman, Stamkos on the power play.
Cirelli, Hagel, Maroon, Belmar, Perry. Where in there are you like, oh, that's where we're better than them? Not many places, So I don't know.
If they're out of gas, they're out of gas. But
listen, it could be that they're out of gas 3 years in a row. They're older.
Do you want to put money on that they're out of gas?
No.
I don't want to put money on that one.
No.
I don't. I'm not going with the JB best bets on that one.
No, I don't think so either. But yeah, you can't just play like donkeys and then show up in the playoffs and be like,
I'm not
we're
saying.
here.
Yeah, again, if they're doing it, it's subconscious.
I agree. And, the way their schedule goes down the stretch, it's Toronto, Nashville, Florida, Columbus, and then they end their season with Columbus Islanders. So they've got a tough stretch here, and then they've got 3 non-playoff teams to close out the year. God, if we were covering them, we would hate those last 3 games.
Like, just think about what they've gone through. They just had an embarrassing loss to Detroit. The last time the Leafs came in here, they spanked us.
Mm-hmm.
So 2 cups or no 2 cups.
You're expecting some prideful bounce back.
What team shows up tomorrow night? I would think that it would have the pride of a game 1 feel tomorrow night against the Leafs.
Yeah, I am curious about that because you've talked about not showing the other team your cards, and if it's not going to be Campbell, that makes a big difference to how seriously guys approach it. I imagine, right?
I think there's always going to be that thought that.
You know what though? I bet you Campbell goes. Here's why: home ice. You win tomorrow and it's over. Ice it. Right?
It's a good point.
Go get the win. You beat them head to head. Then you got 4 games. You don't even have to think about it. Put your best foot forward on Thursday night and. I mean, they are way up now. They're 8 points up on Tampa for home ice with 5 games left.
Home ice, win both games. Their backs are against the wall going back home. Tampa.
Yeah.
Sammy, that make you feel good?
It sounds great in theory, but I I'm picturing a world in which after Game 1 of the Stanley Cup playoffs against Tampa Bay Lightning, Steven Stamkos has a hat trick, and he's talking about how much he loves playing in Toronto. And, it was 1-0 going into Game 2, and I can barely put a Leafs hat on my head. That's how I'm picturing it going. But,
That's scars.
Nervous Nelly.
Yeah.
Right there.
Big time.
It's good, though. It's good. This is the fun stuff to me. The anticipation, the build-up.
We got a quick minute before we go to break one more time. Did we play was there a clip on the 109-year-old goal the Leafs scored
There
last
was.
night? Did we play that already?
No, we didn't. Let's do the Keefe on the tic-tac-toe goal.
Yes.
Let's do that one.
It's a great goal. I didn't put the connection together. I mean, I did put the connection to the three older guys, but not the three Toronto guys connected on that. Is pretty cool.
First time 2 Leaf players 38 years of age or older combined on the same goal since I was 3 years old.
There's a great tweet, one of my favorite all-time tweets, where someone's like, talking about the announcer going, "Oh, and here comes the oldest player in the league. It's a miracle. He's 32 years old." And it's like these guys are the oldest guys in the league. I'm like, God, I'm a year older than both those guys.
Now, was your first thought was, wow, that was an amazing looking goal, or was it like, does Yendel have 2 left feet? Like, what happened? Like, how do you just fall down?
I said to you before the show, it was like he was like a turtle crossing the highway, and at some point he just accepted his fate and just went in his shell. Just run me over. Just get it over with.
I do. Okay, so the fall was bad, for sure. There's no getting around that. But the pass back from Gio with the stick on the ice tap in for Spezza was beautiful. That was a great pass. You knew he was going to do it. But it was a beautiful, beautiful pass back from Giordano, some touch. I love that the 3 old Toronto guys that have come home to try and win Lord Stanley's mug for the Leafs are connecting on a goal. Just love it, boys.
Again, shows you how kind of crazy this season's been, because that is the furthest thing you'll ever see a fourth line kind of look like scoring a goal in the Stanley Cup playoffs.
100%.
Typically in the Stanley Cup playoffs, defensemen just don't fall for any particular reason.
It's going to be one off Clifford's chest or something while he's sitting on top of the goalie if the fourth line gets one.
All right, we're getting into some analytics, which is going to excite my good pal Justin Bourne with Mike Kelly after the break. You're watching and listening to Real Kyper and Bourne, show number 138.
From
Wow.
This is Real Kyper and Bourne on Sportsnet 590 The Fan.
All right. Time to crunch some numbers here. Bring in Mike Kelly because we can't make sense of it.
No, I'm bad at numbers.
Mike Kelly, how are you?
What's up, Kyper? I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. Where do we find you these days? Traveling, at home, or what's going on?
I'm at home. Was traveling the last couple of weeks, so nice to be home. Although I woke up yesterday morning and there was a bunch of snow everywhere, so I don't know what that's about.
Now we are officially or unofficially into the longest NHL season in history. Is that correct?
Sure feels.
I didn't know that. But
Yeah.
wouldn't surprise me.
No, I think it is.
Yeah.
With the stop and the start, or
I guess so.
the pause.
Olympic break and all that.
Just in terms of your overall view before we get into the Leafs and who may be matching up better against them, Boston or Tampa Bay. Just those last few games here, what's your overall sense of the hockey that's being played?
Well, I know there's been a lot of focus lately on just how much scoring there's been in the league, right? The high of about 25 years, over 6 goals a game. That's been a big trend this year. I'm interested to see if that's something that translates into the playoffs, or it gets to kind of be tighter checking, better teams, better goaltending, fewer goals. That's something I'll be interested to take a look at.
So Kyper teased the question there. We're all sitting here in Toronto. All these fans around here want to know who they're going to play. What are the Leafs' chances? Or sorry, who do they have a better chance against, the Boston Bruins or the Tampa Bay Lightning?
Right now, they've got a 55% chance of playing Tampa. And against Tampa Bay this year, they've won 2, they've lost once. The way these teams are playing right now, it'd be hard to say that Toronto shouldn't be the favorite.
Right.
They'll likely have home ice. And then I look at it kind of on paper and start in net, advantage Tampa Bay. Then you look at the blue line, I think advantage Tampa Bay. Then you start crossing off star players on both sides, Point and Kucherov and Stamkos and Matthews and Marner and Tavares and Nylander. Close enough. But again, the way that these teams are playing, like Tampa's really struggling to find their game, and they need to get that fixed fast. Boston, it seems like it might be better to face the Bruins than Tampa Bay. A part of me thinks that Tampa Bay can and will find their game, and Vasilevskiy, that guy can be an absolute difference maker. So I'd go with Boston on this one.
Joe Smith, who covers them for The Athletic, says that the focus is more on the odd man rushes and the giveaways and less on Vasilevskiy. But he's it's got to be the number one thing. You get great goaltending, and it takes you to another level. And if you don't, you're fighting it no matter what. But is there a chance that he may be out of gas just himself alone?
I'm kind of with Joe on this one. I don't think it's as much on Vasilevskiy, just watching them play, looking at numbers recently. You talk about the odd man rushes. So since the trade deadline, probably surprise to no one, Toronto leads the league in terms of odd man rush differential. They're plus 43.
Wow.
Tampa Bay's 29th. They are minus 24. That's not good if you start getting into the playoffs and you're not only giving up odd mans, but potentially going to face the team that's generating the best differential of anyone in the league. But again, because they're a veteran group, because they know what it takes to go all the way, they've done it twice in a row. I don't have anything to base this on. I assume they're going to figure this out in the next couple of weeks and be in a better spot going into the postseason.
Yeah, it's a weird thing. We do this in the NHL every year. Last year for Toronto, it was like, well, they have tons of good players. They'll figure out their power play at some point, and then it just never happened. So you never know. Looking at whoever's going to end up in the wild card here out of the Atlantic, you go play against the Metro. I've been looking at some of their teams. The Rangers are a team on a massive run right now. I think 3 straight shutouts. That team was a very weak defensive team, I guess, pre-trade deadline. What's going on here? Why have they been so good defensively since?
Yeah, I mean, their goals against average has always been good, as you know, Bourne, and that's mainly the goalie who's going to win the Vezina Trophy. But in terms of defense, like you talk about, right, what they allow, shots, quality shots, the type of chances, bottom 10, not good. And you wonder, okay, even if Shesterkin just becomes human for a bit, which he did, what happens? But yeah, since the trade deadline, I mean, this is a team that's gone from bottom 10 in a lot of key areas. So expected goals against, that's goal probability, but we make it a little more translatable, just shots from certain quality areas, cycle chances when they're defending in their own end, they're bottom 10. Since the deadline, they're top 5 and number 1 in a few of these areas. So this is what's creating some debate on the old Twitter sphere is, did the Rangers figure it out? Did the improvements they made to their roster at the trade deadline, bringing in guys who are good defensive players, help them figure it out? Or how much of it is the fact that if you look at who they've played in the last, couple weeks, month even, not a juggernaut roster of teams. They've had some lighter opponents. Probably all of them contribute, but it's made me a believer. That's why I didn't believe in the Rangers as a real playoff threat, because I just thought they're going to go up against a good offensive team, and Shesterkin can only shoulder so much of the load before it starts to crack. They're playing really good defense now, and if you combine that with Shesterkin, I think they're a legit threat in the postseason.
Well, even more so if you look at now what Tristan Jarry out with a lower body injury, Frederik Andersen out. It's like, look at the path maybe the Rangers may have.
Great point. So Pittsburgh, I think on the trade deadline, I was doing some TV work on deadline day, and someone asked me, who's the team to watch down the stretch? I said Pittsburgh. Could I have been more wrong? I don't know. Probably not. But Malkin out 4 games, Jarry not in a good spot with his injury, and they're starting to fade. They have 3 wins in their last 10 games. And right now, as of today, they're matched up to play the Rangers in the first round. I would absolutely pick New York as of today. It could change in a couple weeks, but yeah, I'm with you, Kyper. I think it's kind of open season. The Hurricanes are not a team to me, despite their great record, that I think is as well equipped to win in the playoffs as other top teams. I think they have a lot of good players, but not a lot of game-breaking star players. Game gets a little heavier. It gets a little different in the postseason, and I think they're built in a way that probably doesn't support that as well as some other teams.
Mike, going around the NHL, the other major story from the other side, to me anyway, is Vegas likely to miss the playoffs. Really stunning given the sheer compilation of talent that they have pulled together in Vegas. What are your thoughts on what's gone wrong there?
It's strange, isn't it?
Sure is.
They've had funny year, injuries, getting guys back into the lineup, missing key guys for a certain amount of time, the goaltending position, with Leonard being out for a bit. And it's been a bit of a mess, although that's happened to other teams too. So I'm on the NHL Network the other night, and they played New Jersey, and they lost. And they outshot them by 20 shots. And they outshot them from the slot, 15-8. Good things that usually leads to wins. Then you get into that inner slot net front area, shots were 6-4 for Vegas. Still outshot them, but not the kind of gap on the shot total we saw overall. And this is just something, it's not to explain away the loss because you play that game 10 times, they're probably going to win 7 of them. But you think of the playoffs in the bubble against Dallas when they lost in 5 games. And Pete DeBoer said, we lost the net front at both ends of the ice, and that was a problem. Vegas has so much skill. They move the puck so well. They create all these great chances. But how often do you see their players on top of a goalie, making his life hard? That's something that, was noticeable against Montreal in the playoffs last year as well. You guys both played high-level hockey. I talked to an NHL goalie about this, and, he said, obviously when you've got a guy with his butt in your face, it makes it hard to stop a puck. But even around the hash marks on a cross-ice one-timer, these high probability chances, if you have space and know it's kind of coming, it can help you read them a little better. I think there's some truth in there with why Vegas has kind of not gone as far as maybe the talent on that roster should suggest that they could go. And I'm sure you guys could provide some good perspective on that as well.
I'm just thinking when Vegas misses the playoffs, where is the quickest narrative? I would think from an ownership or management perspective, it's injuries. And others will go Leonard over Marc-Andre Fleury. Mm-hmm. Where do you go first?
That'll get talked about. One thing you hear about Marc-Andre Fleury is how important he's been to every room he's in, right? Not even just the on-ice performance. Maybe that's part of it. It's a hard thing to quantify, but again, you guys playing high-level hockey would have a good idea of what that's about. The injuries are huge. They missed Pacioretty, Stone, Leonard, really key guys for good chunks. That's obviously a part, but it happened to other teams as well, and it's not like the Pacific is a juggernaut division. Underperformance overall. And again, the theme, whatever you want to call it, I talk about the net front, but whatever you want to call it, there's been a theme of this team not finishing on its chances in key games for the last couple of years.
Yeah. That Pacific division you mentioned, really a soft division when you step back at the year and look at how it's gone for a variety of teams. Yet the Canucks, after that, I think they were last at one point this season, are climbing their way. They're going to miss playoffs, let's be honest. But boy, they're made it interesting. Is the success they've had under Bruce Boudreau real? Like, is there underlying support that they've had success, or has this been, goaltending and shooting percentage type of thing?
Look, any 6-game winning streak, you're going to see some of that for sure.
Yeah.
Since he's taken over, no question the team's been better. One of the things that was evident right away is they attacked up the ice a lot faster. And that's just not how Travis Green had the team playing. He understood the strengths and weaknesses and went about it his way. And in the way that he coached that team, it worked for a large part. But there's been obviously noticeable differences with Elias Pettersson, other top players. JT Miller's having an unbelievable year. Bo Horvat, up until his injury, was one of the hottest players in the league. And Thatcher Demko is he's the guy I guess people don't really talk about as a potential top 5 goalie, absolutely a top 10. That's where I stand with him. Because again, the Canucks, they give up their share of chances, and he's a rock star for them. So I think there's enough there to say that under Bruce Boudreau, the way they're playing, they carry some of this into next season. They should be a playoff team, which is better than they are now. I don't think they're an elite team by any means, but yeah, in that Pacific Division, I think that they should be, maybe a little bit below Edmonton, but kind of right in the mix after that. And Calgary, I've got them as a legit cup favorite. I don't know how you guys feel about Calgary.
Well, listen, I mean, great segue, easy segue to best chance for Canada with the Stanley Cup. You just answered that. Just tell us why you've got Calgary.
Very, very few identifiable weaknesses.
Yeah.
You can kind of try to pick apart even top teams or areas you think you can exploit. Calgary's path can't be ignored with the way that the playoffs are set up. It's not as hard, I think, as Toronto. And those are the two best chances for Canada to get a cup win here for the first time since '93. So that helps. But I look at Calgary offensively and the results, their process, how they do it. They're, certainly their top three lines. And I look at them defensively, they're top three in goals against. They're number one in expected goals against. And then that's Markstrom after that, who's a great goalie. It's hard to poke holes in the way that team plays. And again, I just think there's that Daryl Sutter effect too, where he gets not only the most out of anyone he coaches, from a star like Johnny Gaudreau to a role-playing defenseman like Eric Goodbranson, and he gets them peaking right at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
I think Calgary, they're in my upper echelon of the Floridas, the Colorados, as a team that could win a cup this year.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'll throw one more at you, and I realize.
Can I just follow up on Calgary?
Sure, please do.
Just in terms of, like, you mentioned Johnny Gaudreau, and he's having a star year, and he'll get votes for a Hart, but how much can be lost if he doesn't prove that a little guy can play big in the Stanley Cup playoffs?
That's a really good point. And the thing about Calgary this year is, I know that I think they did win the West when they lost to Colorado in 5 a few years ago. Colorado was a good team as well. The thing about Calgary this year, they've been so good. They need to get, I would think, to a conference final to call this year a success of some sort. He's got to be very good. And, can he be? He's been shut down in the playoffs before. But he's not a big guy. The thing that impresses me about him, though, is you watch that top line and how they are as good as they are. He's below the goal line a ton. Him and Matthew Tkachuk. And Lindholm kind of pops around the slot looking for those chances, high forward. But Johnny Gaudreau doesn't just, dance around the perimeter. He gets into areas where D are on him, and he's elusive. And if he can keep doing that in the postseason, he should be able to be successful.
For sure. And last one from me, Mike, another team in the Western Conference who's very good, the St. Louis Blues. I checked on CoolBet the other day. They were the 12th longest odds, I think, to win the Stanley Cup. Team that's just won, 12 straight games prior to losing to Boston. And, obviously been a very good team. So what are your thoughts on the Blues? They legit?
I think so. And they were one of those teams where I wasn't sure about that not even that long ago, maybe a month and a half ago. Yeah, they ripped off 9 wins in a row. They look incredible. They're going to play Minnesota in the first round. I wouldn't count Minnesota out either. That's going to be a tough series, even though the Blues have kind of had their number this year and in recent history. But I don't know about you guys. St. Louis might have the best top 9 in the NHL. Like, you look at that group, there's not a Matthews or a Gaudreau, that Hart-type player. They're all good, every one of them. And can score. So I don't think the defense is quite what it's been, certainly when they won a cup. Goaltending, Husso's been good. Bennington has been magical at times in the past. We know that. Yeah, I think they're a real threat for sure.
Just and you mentioned the goals at the beginning of our hit here, but it's led by the Florida Panthers. And the ability to put the puck in the net, and we're going to critique the heck out of their goaltending going into game one, but you cannot deny that this team, as far as their top 9, once again, leading the charge in that capacity.
Yeah, it's silly how easy they make it look. When people talk about Huberdeau, right, and he might win the Art Ross Trophy, and there's Hart talk for him as well. Is Alex Barkov not the most valuable player on that team? I think so.
What a mule he is.
Somebody who broadcasts for Florida, they think so too. It's an embarrassment of riches with that team. And I think for Florida, Bobrovsky doesn't have to be the best goalie in the playoffs. He doesn't have to be great. Just don't sink the ship. I think that's it. Because this is the highest scoring team in the league, number one in expected goals. They're top 10 against in both areas, so they're good defensively. And they can cut you up in a lot of different ways, which I think is hugely important in the playoffs. They're not one-dimensional. They're top 5 in rush chances, cycle, forecheck, rebound, all of it. So I think as long as Bobrovsky doesn't lay eggs, then they're in great shape.
Get your rest, man. You're going to be a busy guy.
I look forward to it. The playoffs, there's already exciting matchups, right, with these 2-3s, and there's going to be some unbelievable teams knocked out. If it's Toronto-Tampa first round, either the 2-time Cup winners are gone or, we won't get into the other one. We'll be positive.
Third best team in the league right now. That's no big deal.
I know we're concluding this, but there needs to be another conversation on top teams facing each other in the first round. Don't you think that's a conversation for a different day, though? But, do we really want to see great teams eliminated this early?
That's the debate, I guess, right? Is that would you rather see better teams go on later or guarantee yourself excellent matchups?
All right. We'll save that for another day. Mike Kelly, thanks for doing this.
All right. Sounds good, guys. Good talking to you.
Thanks, Mike. Well, what do you think on that? 1 versus 8?
Oh,
1 versus 16?
You cannot have top teams like Tampa Bay and Toronto eliminate each other in the first round. I'm sorry.
It was
bad.
It was all
bad
about
business.
Travel for so long, right?
Well, it's good business because you save money because of the travel you're talking about.
But I don't think travel's such a huge deal anymore. If Toronto has to travel to Nashville.
Seen where gas prices have gone?
Okay, well, it costs money. No one cares about that part.
Yeah, except the owners.
Well, but what is the real difference between flying to Tampa Bay versus flying to Nashville or Dallas or wherever? I think it's interesting to say, all right, we want these divisional matchups. Divisional matchups? You know how many times Toronto played Florida this season? 3 times. They played everyone in the Metro 3 times.
4 weeks.
Yeah. There's no such thing as divisional matchups aside from, some sort of historical context. At most, you play these guys 4 times instead of 3. It should at least be 1 versus 8 in the conference. I would hear 1 versus 16, but, I don't really think you want to see Nashville, Toronto in the first round or whatever. But
You guys want the 1 versus 8? I have it in front of me here.
Yeah, what do you got?
So it'd be Florida, Washington, Toronto, Pittsburgh, Carolina, Boston, New York Rangers, and Tampa Bay.
Oh, okay. Hold on. Okay.
So
you said Pitt versus Toronto?
It'd be Pitt versus Toronto in the first round. Yeah.
That sounds better, doesn't it? Pittsburgh's
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, they're good hockey teams and whatever, but your chances of winning goes to 54% instead of 52 if you're the better team.
I think it would be more of a reflection on being rewarded
for the 82-game work.
Correct.
Yeah, I do too. And I get what the league wanted to do and say, okay, well, these are the closest teams and fans want to see them get a playoff matchup, but it hasn't worked out that way enough to justify punishing teams, the way that Toronto and Tampa are likely going to be. And, we've seen it every year that it seems unfair for someone somewhere. So I'd like to see them move on from that.
I know we touched on this a little bit, but repercussions for Vegas missing the playoffs. McCrimmon, George McPhee, would they be nervous about an owner that expected to win a Stanley Cup? Or can they, as I asked Mike, look at, hey, we got hit with rash of injuries, and maybe my math on occasion wasn't great with the salary cap, but we had all these injured guys.
Yeah, I don't know if that's so. I don't know what Foley is really like, but it's a tough sell.
Wild Bill. That's all you need to know. The nickname.
Well, then, if my goal is, all right, I'm going to spend way above the salary cap, because of LTIR and whatever, and you can't get me into the playoffs, you better be good enough to get me into the playoffs with injuries. Like, I think that probably costs jobs. Expectations, like, to not even get a couple of home gates in the postseason to get a chance. It's a fail. I don't care injured or not. The Pacific Division was powder soft. There is no way injury should take you out of playoffs entirely. Total fail.
We did give Jack Eichel the chance to be as close to Kucherov as anybody, just from a mere talent perspective, right? If anybody could pull off a guy that's been off that long and come in and look still like a great player, Eichel had that ability to do it just from sheer talent alone, but it didn't materialize.
I wonder if a healthy offseason won't go a long way for him, familiar with the surroundings and the team and whatever, but I don't think it's for sure that this team is going to look the same going into next year. If they feel like they couldn't trust Leonard down the stretch and had to go with Logan Thompson, what's going to happen there? I hate to bury this team. They are, to their credit, goal differential tends to tell us the true difference between teams that are decent and teams that aren't. They're a plus 17 goal differential team. The Kings are -3, Dallas -6. Like, they're better than their results have been, but I don't know.
Go ahead,
you guys
Sandy.
want a stat here about Jack Eichel?
Of course.
This is from old friend Nick Alberga on Twitter. Since Jack Eichel made his Golden Knights debut on February 16th, Vegas is 13-14-2. Buffalo is 13-14-3.
Come on, that's great.
Wow,
good job, Nick.
And Buffalo's feeling very good. I think for good reason.
Oh, they're fired up.
No guarantees.
By the way, that's the state of a franchise right there. They're 13-14-2. They're feeling great.
Yeah, it is always the case.
Yeah.
How many teams are feeling great?
Yeah, at that
They've been knocked out of the playoffs for 3 months, but they're feeling
they're
great.
rolling 5-4-1 in their last 10. Look out for the Sabres.
So put your 40% deposit down on season tickets now.
Still available.
They beat the Leafs a couple times.
Well, they're still around.
Yeah.
Get these.
They probably did sell tickets by beating the Leafs. Season seats.
Oh, yeah.
But you can watch. The optics are there that there's something growing there in Buffalo.
Mm-hmm.
And, Leonard cannot save them. I think they're done. I think they're like a Burger King Whopper. They got the grill marks right down their asses.
They're all seared.
Yeah, and Leonard cannot come back. He has not had a great year. He's battled injuries as well. We know the challenges that he has off the ice as well. That may or may be a factor, may or may not be a factor, but they're there. So it's tough now. It's tough these last few games, these handful of games. I don't see it. What did you say? 20% chance still to make the playoffs? What are they at?
For the 19.
For Vegas.
Yeah, 19%.
19.
Chance. Yeah.
Well, it's not nothing.
Nope. You're telling me there's a chance. So let me ask you then, who do you see as the most likely team, non-playoff team, to make a bounce back? And I'll give you the Islanders, the Vegas Golden Knights, Vancouver, and Winnipeg. So Vegas, Vancouver, Winnipeg are all the close ones sitting on the outside in the West. Islanders, the really only legit team in the East that missed, in my estimation.
Well, what's interesting now is that it just seems like if you're going to miss for the next few years.
Doesn't it? Look at below the Islanders in the East. It's a mess.
I don't know. I mean, we only got a few minutes left here, but for another occasion, we can have a complete conversation of how the salary cap and all of that. The sway was to get towards parity, and everybody can win on any given night. That was the sales, right?
Yeah.
And it's true if you happen to be playing the team that maybe has been on the road for 3 or 4 nights and has hung over.
Yeah.
You can win. But can you make the playoffs in any given year?
Yeah.
That's the better question than can you win on any given night?
Yeah.
Can you make the playoffs on any given year? And the answer is no.
But part of the problem there is teams are trying to lose to get the difference makers so they can be
great.
I know.
Great. But guess what? How many teams, like it's one thing if you got the strategy to lose on purpose, but how many teams can we look at this season and go, you lost, but you lost worse because you thought you were going to win?
Great question. So Montreal, I think, didn't think they were going to be. They went to Stanley Cup final last year. They didn't plan on being garbage.
No, they did. That's right. October, November, and December.
Right. They thought they might be okay.
So
Philly made trades. They added Ristolainen and Ellis. And
there's another team that you stink, and you were too dumb to see it.
Jersey added Dougie Hamilton.
There's a third one.
They thought they would be legit. Like Ottawa, Buffalo, legit rebuilds. Columbus, yeah, they made ads. They got Patrick Laine.
Winnipeg.
Definitely thought they were going to be good.
You mentioned the Flyers.
Islanders thought they'd be good. Islanders thought they'd be real good. They're back-to-back conference finals. I mean, they're not terrible.
Where is
Arizona thought they would suck. Seattle,
Arizona.
Chicago traded for Seth Jones. They thought they'd be good.
For sure. Chicago. So it's the teams that should have had the smarts to say we're going to suck, but we're going to suck on purpose. We're going to suck with a plan.
You know what's funny is Anaheim thought they were going to suck and ended up being okay and kind of got caught in the middle. And then they cut bait and traded
This
everyone.
really goes back to your question is like, okay, who's out or who's in next year? And I don't see Winnipeg getting better.
It's tough to see when such an important part of the team is the older guys, right? Like Wheeler's making a whack of money, and I think
Anaheim's going to suck again next year.
Yeah, probably.
San Jose's not making the playoffs next year.
What's San Jose's story? Just so much money tied up in older guys, too. Yeah. It's a bad spot to be in. These big contracts sink you forever.
San Jose needs a general manager, right? And they're searching. They call other teams for recommendations. How stupid is that? I don't understand that.
Why is that stupid?
They're your competitor.
Oh.
That don't make no sense.
Who do you think we should hire? And they're all like, that guy in the mailroom.
They're in your division, and you're calling up teams in your division and asking for referrals. I'm like, I would send you the dumbest, stupidest guy I know.
Yeah, you're like, Justin Bourne is looking for work. Let's go. Send me in there.
Oh my gosh.
No, you're right.
Like, why don't you do your own work?
Yeah.
Why don't you find out for yourself?
Hey, eyes on your own paper, San Jose. I have heard a few names, of people there. It sounds like, Chicago did that whole thing. I hated how Chicago did their search too. We're going to interview 30 people for the GM job.
Yes.
Yeah, you took 30 people seriously, or are you wasting 25 people's time?
And we're going to announce everybody we're talking to.
Just so you know, we're trying really hard here. Who'd you hire? The guy who had the job.
So in the East,
you
see Islanders getting back in?
Yes. I like the Islanders.
Okay, so who do they take the place of this time next year?
I love that question. So Boston's going at some point. Can Marchand be a little worse and Bergeron be a little bit worse? And then they added Foligno and Forbort and some of these guys this year that was like, I don't know, did they really get better? Is Taylor Hall going to get better?
The first team I would look at to say if the Islanders get in, the replacement team, and then I bite my tongue because Sidney Crosby's on it.
Yeah. How about Kasperi Kapanen this year? He leaves Fan. Yeah, Capitals are a good vote. How about Kapanen this year, guys? I was just looking today for here's what I'll tell you. I was looking to see where Nick Ritchie was in the NHL in goals for. Because he has Sam, do you know how many goals Nick Ritchie has?
I did. Hold on. I did say,
look, Sam. Don't look.
I did say at the beginning of the year.
12
I don't know if we have the tape.
Yeah.
That Bunting and Nick Ritchie would end up with more goals than Zack Hyman.
Did you? Oh, combined. Did you?
Combined.
Yeah. So Ritchie goes to Arizona in the month of March. He scored 7 times. when he left here. He's got 12 goals on the year. So I was looking to see where he was in league scoring. He's like 203rd among forwards.
Ritchie could end up with the same amount of goals that he had when the Leafs were so attracted to him.
I know, another 15-goal year or whatever. Anyway, my point with all this is Kasperi Kapanen has 11 goals in 75 games for the Pittsburgh Penguins. 11 and 75. You know who else has 11 goals this year? David Kampf. And so that's
his plays dropped.
Kampf has.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know if it's dropped. You know what?
Has it?
Well, you know what it was
his
for me?
Energy's dropped.
What were expectations for him? And it was like nothing. If he does nothing, we're okay. Just don't be bad.
First half of the season, he was a big part and an important part.
That Mikheyev Kemp Engvall line was good. He feels
maybe
lost
he's just again, it's a long season. Has he been used to this before?
I don't know. For me,
is he learning how to pace himself here to get himself ready, rejuvenated for the first round?
Yeah. I just feel like the bar has changed. Like we were like, if he does nothing, it's okay. Then he did nothing for so long that it feels like he can't always do nothing.
I think he's really important. Face-offs and
huge PK.
He's got it.
He's actually most total penalty kill time on ice on the team.
He does. See, for me, I see Kerfoot still being that Swiss Army knife, jumping up and down, and maybe on a few wings. I think Kempf has to give a third line center ice checking feel.
Yeah. Well, and that's what they wanted. I know that Sheldon loves that Mikheyev Engvall Kampf line, which is why I think you're going to get Kerfoot, Tavares, Nylander. Assuming you have home ice.
Are you fast on the trigger on that thing?
Fast.
Just face-offs.
Yeah.
And the Leafs, they're as a team or individuals, because have the Leafs slipped at all, or is it just my perception in the face-off circle?
In terms of as a team, they are currently. Oh, that didn't work. I'm not as fast as I thought I was there, Kipper. But they are currently the best team in the NHL, 55.2% ahead of Dallas.
Where's Kemp in all of that?
Well, I'm going to need another second on that.
That's always been a strong suit.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, maybe it's just the times that they lose the draw that I notice. I don't know.
It can be an anecdotal thing. So face-off percentage for the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Seems on power plays they're losing more draws as well.
Face-off winning percentage.
But
Tavares best on the team, 60.9%. Kampf is 52.8%. Fourth on the team behind Matthews and Spezza.
I wonder if he's dropped in that capacity.
I think he has. I think he has a little, but still, that all four of those guys to play in all those minutes are well above, 53% and above, basically. Pretty impressive.
All right. Anything I'd add, Sammy?
Justice for Kampf. You guys are being hard on Kampf. Kampf has been the exact same guy, literally the entire year.
No.
He has done nothing from the start to the finish. Like, he wins draws, he kills penalties, carries the puck into the offensive zone, chops it around, goes off the ice.
I'm not ready to get rid of him. I just think it's a long season, and it's not a reflection necessarily on him, but just him managing still something that's throughout his career has never been asked of, and that's just to hold the hard line on a Stanley Cup contending team. That's all.
Best bets for tonight. The Capitals are in Vegas tonight, and the Capitals are underdogs, plus 125 on the money line. I think if Vegas falls apart, it's going to fall apart. It's just going to go spectacularly here.
Washington, to me, just did not look good against the Leafs last week.
No, that was the 7-3 win or whatever, yeah.
So, but you think they're kind of lying under the weeds a little bit?
The Capitals?
Yeah.
I just feel like they've got those guys who've been there before, and yeah, they're not going to be an easy out. Anyway, Capitals plus 125 if Vegas is going to just puke.
All right, our thanks to Joe Smith and Mike Kelly. As always, thanks for watching, listening. Hit the like button. Give us a rating and review. We're back on Friday, right, guys? Yeah, the boys are golfing tomorrow. We got the Jays tomorrow.
See you on the golf course, boys.
Have a great one, everybody.